feeling coming into this. Sylvia has great name recognition, and certainly the message that our party and our leader has been conveying has very much resonated at the doors, and that's about getting the economy going again and getting a private sector creating jobs in Ontario. Sylvia's heard it over and over again at the door. People are concerned about the level of deficit spending, they're concerned about how high the debt's getting, and they're worried about more and more companies, particularly manufacturing, leaving Ontario for other jurisdictions.
So what is our plan to prevent this?
Well, the PC plan is very clear. You need to lower taxes, lower energy rates, and create a competitive business climate, and that's something that the leader and Sylvia, and in fact all the candidates across Ontario have been very clear on. We have a platform, the PC Party, that's focused on job creation. It's focused on getting our economy back on track, because when the economy is growing and when the private sector is creating jobs, everybody benefits.
Great, and how is Sylvia? What has she been saying tonight?
Sylvia is doing great. She's very excited. She's excited to come out and spend a night of fun with her volunteers here. We are really blessed in Dufferin-Caledon. We've got lots of volunteers, and not only our repeats that come out every election, but we also have a lot of new volunteers. Every election we get new people coming in, new people getting engaged, and it's just a lot of fun actually for everybody to work together to help re-elect Sylvia.
Great, thank you so much, Kevin. Now we might be back here tonight as Sylvia Jones pulls through for yet another year. I'm Emily, back to Niru.
Thanks, Emily. That, of course, she was talking to the campaign manager for Sylvia Jones, who has been the MPP for that riding for Dufferin-Caledon since 2007, which has been a good spell for her. So let's see if she gets re-elected tonight. She has a serious challenge, and she's got a slate of candidates that are challenging her: the Liberals, the Libertarians, the Greens, the NDP. Let me just mention, as you're looking at the results coming up on your screen, that there are some perhaps unrecognizable acronyms beside some of the candidates' names. And so I just thought I'd give you a quick rundown, and I will repeat it again later, because there are candidates that are representing parties that are not from the four official parties, the official parties being, of course, the Progressive Conservatives, the Liberals, the NDP, and the Greens. But some of the other parties that you'll see on the side are also the Family Coalition Party, the Freedom Party, the None of the Above Party, which is a registered party officially with Elections Ontario, and the Ontario Libertarian Party, Libertarian. So you're going to see some interesting acronyms. That's just to give you a bit of a guide as to how to interpret them. I think there was also an IND, which represents independent. So, and we've got some of those candidates in sprinkled throughout the various ridings here in Peel. Okay, now we're heading back to Michael. We've been keeping Michael very busy with lots of interviews. Hopefully they're giving you a lot to think about as the results are coming in. And right now he's going to be speaking with the members from the Mississauga and the Brampton Boards of Trade, both of whom were involved with us, with Rogers TV, for the debates that were hosted here as soon as the elections were called. So Michael?
Well, the business of our province is always first and foremost. If we don't have small business, who is generally the largest employer, we're in a big problem. We have two representatives from the business community. First of all, from the Mississauga Board of Trade, Brampton Board of Trade, Miss Susan Crawford. I'm sorry, I always got to introduce the lady first. Susan is the chair, and we saw many interviews and many interactions with our candidates from both Brampton and Mississauga. And beside me is Mr. Sheldon Leiba, who is from the Mississauga Board of Trade and the president. So I'll start with you, Susan. Ladies first. Sorry, you're a good-looking guy, but I have to go to the lady first. You know, business is such an important thing. We talk about taxes. We talk about infrastructure. We talk about, we were just talking to the Canadian Association of Retired People. The expense of living is so dear to us. From a business person's point of view, how do you feel that your constituents in the Mississauga Board of Trade, or the Brampton Board of Trade, I should say, took this election?
Well, I mean, the results aren't in yet, but it looks like it's going to be a Liberal government, either majority or minority. So you're saying that you think it looks like. So what I'm going to say to you that all the press releases and what business was saying is it's so tight and so close. Your feeling from the Brampton Board of Trade is you feel that there's a Liberal push that's going to happen. I think based on this. The election results, yes. I wouldn't
we don't have any election results.
Well, based on what
Susan,
what
come
we're
on.
seeing here.
Susan is a Liberal, ladies and gentlemen. So, from a business perspective, one could say that with $12.5 billion in deficit, which is what the Conservatives were purporting, that has put a stranglehold on business.
Absolutely, absolutely. When we surveyed our members, what they were telling us was that they wanted the debt to be reduced, and they wanted job creation, and they wanted the issues of gridlock to be dealt with. Those are sort of the big issues, in addition to things like accountability and transparency. Right. So, based on what we saw in the surveys, I would have expected that they would have, our small business would have leaned more towards the PC platform, which was reduced taxes and reducing the deficit.
Right. That's what I was getting at, Susan. Yeah. I was trying to warm up to that area, but and I love it. You've got to go out there and you've got to say the way. I'm going to go to you, Sheldon. What is your perspective? Do you agree with Susan? I mean, I know you've been involved in the city of Brampton and the Brampton Board of Trade as well. And now you are the president of Mississauga Board of Trade. So you've traded on boards on both sides of the cities. What's your take on that question?
Well, our Board of Trade, like most, are nonpartisan organizations.
See, Susan, did you see that?
But we're very politically active.
Yes,
representing the interests of businesses on policy issues at all levels of government. So we take a very active interest in elections. But even in between elections, we spend a lot of time engaging with elected and government officials at all levels to advance the interests of business. Going into this elections, we really haven't come out of the recession in a strong way. So there's cautious optimism from the business community about the economic outlook. There's concerns around the growing provincial debt.
Yes.
Servicing that debt is taking away capacity to address important, I'm going to say, economic drivers, investments in education, training, infrastructure. So it's a very strong priority from the business community that the provincial government get its financial house in order. Some other key priorities, I would say, would be continuing the trend of reducing corporate taxes.
You're sounding like a conservative, Sheldon. I'm just telling you right now. I'm going to hold you to here. Susan and Sheldon are going to continue our discussion, but I think Niru's got some more updates for us, so I'll throw it back to Niru.
I do. Thank you very much, Michael. We love the opportunity to talk to candidates. And so earlier when we had gone to Sarbrana, she had said that the hall was just, people were just piling in, but Pam Hundle has just joined her now. And so we'll go back to see what Sarb and Pam have to say.
Brampton-Springdale is considered to be a fierce battleground in the provincial election, with the Liberals, Tories and NDP all hoping they can win the 905 riding. Local issues for this riding of Brampton-Springdale include jobs. The Unilever soup plant just outside the riding is about to close, shedding 280 jobs. High insurance rates paid by area motorists, the need for a second full-service hospital, and a strong feeling that Canada's 9th largest city does not get the due attention or respect that it deserves. Right now, I'm in the Brampton-Springdale riding of Pam Hundle, candidate-elect for the Progressive Conservative Party. Hello, Pam.
Good evening.
So it's been a short run, but a long election. Let's talk a little bit about some of the issues that you've been having to deal with the constituents.
Definitely. Well, when I go door to door, the biggest issue here is that they don't trust politicians anymore. So that's definitely an area that, we want to break that stereotype. The next issue here is also auto insurance, as you mentioned, hospital closures, ER wait times, and jobs. It's a huge issue.
So, should you get elected, how does that get fixed? What is it you're about to do, step by step? How do you make that happen?
Well, first of all, I want to really open the doors to communication with my constituents. That means having town hall meetings, reaching out, door knocking regularly, staying in touch and letting the constituents know when and where they can find me in my constituency office. So that'll start breaking down those stereotypes. Then what I'd like to do is start tackling the issues of auto insurance, for example. And I'd like to give progress reports to my constituents. They need to know what I'm doing, what's going on, have we gotten any new information. So I think the biggest step here is communication, not making any promises you can't keep, and taking those steps to make a change.
So would you say that accountability is also on that high roster?
Absolutely. I think it's very important that you're transparent and accountable to those people who voted you in.
So what's going through your head right now? We're at the 11th hour. of the 11th day, literally. What are you thinking?
I feel good. It's been a positive campaign. I'm doing this because I love it. I'm passionate about it.
Okay, we had a little bit of a technical glitch there. We apologize for that. I'm sure we'll have it sorted out by the time we next go back there with results. One of the things that I am intrigued by as I listen to Pam, of course, her riding is kind of up for grabs because Linda Jeffrey, the incumbent, Liberal incumbent, is no longer running in this election, and she's the only one of the incumbents out of the entire region of Peel that is not running for re-election. That is, of course, because she is running to be mayor of Brampton in the fall. And so it leaves the race in some ways wide open. And I kind of wonder whether people vote of a particular riding, whether they vote for a candidate or whether they vote for a party. And I guess we're going to see the way that plays out in that riding tonight. Okay, so we were in the middle of a conversation with the Mississauga and the Brampton Boards of Trade. Michael, I'm throwing it back to you.
Yeah, come to us. Well, you know, taxes are always something that affects business, and business, again, is what drives employment. I'm joined by Susan Crawford from the Brampton Business Community, Board of Trade, I should say, and Sheldon Liable from the Mississauga Board of Trade. And we were talking previously about costs and about what's happening with the Liberal government. But I wanted to read something here with regards to taxes, because if you tax the money that a business makes, that influences what they can hire and what they can do. So the Liberals, with regards to taxes, said that they promised not to raise middle-class taxes, and they wanted a 1% levy on those that earn $150,000 a year. The Progressive Conservatives, our dear friend Mr. Hudak, said that the reduction of a business tax by 30%. Interesting. A reduction of personal taxes of 10% phased in over 4 years after the budget is balanced. After the budget is balanced, he says. Some would say that his math is incorrect. That's what we've been hearing in the media. So interesting. The New Democrats, they said an increase in corporate taxes from 11.5% to 12%. So the New Democrats want to raise business taxes. So I'll ask our two representatives from both Board of Trades from Brampton and Mississauga, and I'll start with you, Susan. What is your take on taxes and the correct formula from a party that would make that work?
Well, I know that you suggested that I'm a Liberal, but I actually think that the PC platform on taxation is the right one, especially for small business. You know, taxing businesses when they already have enough issues dealing with in terms of our economy is just not the way to go. So the promise to reduce taxes, which then means that there is more money to invest in people and infrastructure and things like that. Right. I mean, I think that that's the way to go, and certainly our members, the majority of whom are small business, would agree that reducing taxes is a better way to stimulate our economy.
But what business would vote to increase taxes? Please, government, take more money from me. Really, I want to give you more money. I mean, that's Sheldon, are you going to throw me a curveball here? You've got that Cheshire cat smile on.
I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball. Okay. Taxes are never popular for anybody who has to pay, whether it's corporate.
It's like going to the dentist.
The income tax, sales tax. We spent quite a bit of time engaging with our business community to get a better sense of their feelings around taxes. It's probably easy and expected for a business association to say, you know, we support tax cuts. The feedback that we've received from our members is that they want value for tax dollars. They want to see very strategic and smart investments being made with, you know, the tax dollars that they contribute to the government. With that being said, I think, you know, they would be favorable to, you know, not supporting tax reductions. You know, there's many important investments that need to be made.
Sheldon, I love you, but you haven't really clearly defined. You're kind of a con-lib.
Yeah, well, that's probably pretty good.
We're definitely not NDP. We don't want to raise taxes because, I mean, everybody's saying, oh, there's so many loopholes, corporate loopholes. Yeah. I dare say business today has had to be more lean than it ever has been. And to maintain their rosters of employees, they've had to be more productive and more specific in what they're doing. So I don't think there's that many businesses out there, unless they're manufacturing gold, and that's, say, in Ottawa and the Mint, that it would be a situation that they're rolling in dough.
But in order to support businesses with an environment that's conducive to business growth, you know, things like infrastructure, whether it be energy, transportation, public transit for their skilled workers to get to and from work, You know, there's much needed investments that need to be made in those and many other areas.
But it's
education.
It's a partnership, is it not, between business and the people, though, right?
It's a partnership between government, business, and the public taxpayer. And we all have a vested interest in ensuring that, you know, the needs of a corporate community, the needs of, you know, students, newcomers, the needs of our skilled workforce all need to be addressed.
So, Susan, I'll direct this to you. I mean, Brampton is a vibrant community. There are lots of businesses and large corporations that are moving to Brampton because there is space. It's a good economy. It's a well-run city. a AAA credit rating. There's no debt. The city is run well. If you create tax incentives, you're going to bring business to a sector. You're going to grow the economy, and you're going to have more jobs. So, if we don't say that we want to give tax incentives or reduce tax, we could hinder that growth if people want to move to Brampton. I'm not saying they want to move to Mississauga, because I know, Sheldon, I understand it, but just from a solely philosophical point of view, if we were to lower corporate taxes, would that not, in a sense, stimulate more business?
Well, I absolutely think it would, but I think Sheldon raises a good point too. It's not just the tax rate, it's how the tax money is spent, and I think that raises a really good point in terms of some of the issues that we are dealing with in Brampton. Although, as you said, we have a lot of really great things going for us, but we have increasing gridlock as an example, and we have issues of population growth, and all the stats that are coming out of the provincial government show that we're going to have a lot more people than jobs in 20 years if we don't invest in job creation. So those are the things that I think we need to focus on. But I think for small business, if you're overtaxed, then you stop spending money, you stop investing in the economy.
You're not sure if you have enough left in the kitty to move forward. So I'm gonna ask you, Susan and Sheldon, to hold on. We're going to go back to Niru with some interesting updates. Niru.
Thank you so much, Michael, and interesting they are. I can't say that half the polls have reported. In some cases it's a quarter, in some cases it's a third, in some cases it's closer to a half. But with early trends showing with the numbers that we're seeing now, it is possible that we're seeing the beginnings of a Liberal majority victory tonight. But we are not calling anything. It's just what's indicated right now with the numbers. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you see that the Liberals are leading with 58. The PCs are trailing by 30, and the NDP behind them. So it's anybody's guess what's going to happen with the rest of the poll numbers coming in, but at the moment it is a distinct possibility that we're going to see a Liberal majority. And with that, we are going to Radha Taylor, who is standing with Amrit Mangat and who is leading handily at the moment with 5,000 votes. Radha.
Thanks, Niru. I'm here with Amrit Mangat. She's the incumbent MPP, now running for re-election with the Liberal Party for Mississauga-Brampton South. Now, Amrit, this is a difficult election for you, more so because this riding has always had the lowest voter turnout. So what has been the challenge to inspire people to vote this time around?
You know, every election is a difficult one. No election is an easy one, and we shouldn't take it granted, and I always work hard. The reason for the low turnout last time was multiple elections. As you know, in May 2011 there was a federal election, and in September, on 20th September was the municipal by-election, and on October 6th was the provincial election. There was lots of voter confusion, multiple elections, and voter fatigue. So I think that was the reason. And since then I have been trying very hard to tell people, get out and vote. If you don't vote, you can't complain. And vote early and vote often. And we will see what would be the result tonight. And I hope people are busy watching, you know, World Cup soccer. That might not have impact on that too.
You know, as an incumbent, there are high stakes in this. So what are those stakes for you? What is it that you are trying to hold on to and retain, and what is it that you're afraid of giving up?
Definitely. The work I have done in the past since 2007. We have worked together, and I would like to continue to build on the progress we have worked together.
Wonderful. And last question, what has this experience been like for you to run in this particular election for re-election of your seat?
I mean, the particular one was when I was going at the doors, what people were telling me, that this election should not have been happened. Andrea and Tim Hudek should not have been pulled the plug. They have wasted millions of taxpayers' dollars, and there cannot be a bigger scandal than this.
All right. Thank you very much. This is Amrit Mungat with the Liberal Party for the Mississauga-Brampton South riding. Back to you, Niru.
And we have breaking news right this very moment. We have just learned that Harinder Mully, the Liberal candidate for Brampton Springdale, has just been declared the winner of that riding. So she is the new MPP for Brampton Springdale. As you can see, we have our reporters on scene live with her. Can you give us a sense of what's going on? Is this is this a big surprise? Sir?
Hi there, we're live, Niru, at Harinder Mully's riding. Congratulations.
Thank you so very much. I just want to thank everybody in Brampton Springdale for your ongoing support.
So how are you feeling? Tell me exactly what's going through your head right this minute.
It's very exciting, and it's time to get to work. I'm happy to be a part of Team Win.
Say to all your supporters, your volunteers, the people that have made this campaign a success, and to your biggest fans.
I just want to say thank you. You are my backbone. You're only as good as the people who support you. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for standing by me all the way. And I couldn't have asked for more. I couldn't ask for a better bunch.
So I guess everything else starts tomorrow morning when you're ready to go?
Definitely. I'm proud to be a part of Team Win, and I look forward to getting straight down to work.
And part of being your father's daughter means that you're continuing the legacy?
I can't even thank my father enough. He is my inspiration, and that's why I'm here before you today.
Is he nearby? Oh, there he is. Come on, Mr. Mully. Let's have a quick word. We're going to go to Mr. Mully. Mr. Mully, how are you feeling today?
I feel very proud of Harinder, and especially I would like to thank the Liberal Party of Ontario because they gave us the opportunity to serve the community of Springdale and Brampton.
So I guess in the Mully family, the legacy continues for you, so you must be feeling pretty happy?
Yes. That was really my dream.
And anybody else would like to say something? You're certainly?
No, we are doing a very hard job for the Mully,
I think Mully made a legacy in his term as well. So yes, it's going to continue, and yes, it's the reward of hard work by her father, and it's inspiration, as she said, and I think she will continue the same way.
Well, you heard us here live here at the Harinder Mully camp. Thanks so much. Back to you, Niru. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. That was live breaking news. The first of our ridings that has been declared. That, of course, was Harinder Mully, the Liberal candidate, now the newest MPP once she is sworn in, for the riding of Brampton Springdale. She's a school trustee with the Peel District School Board, and now she defeats Pam Hundal, the candidate that you've been seeing representing the Progressive Conservative Party, who was a three-time candidate who has run in the elections of 2007, 2011, and again this 2014 election, always defeated by her Liberal counterparts. And so we have that result today, breaking in Mississauga Springdale, yes. And we are going back to Michael, who is going to continue his discussion with the boards of trade for Brampton and for Mississauga.
Yeah, thank you, Niru. Continuing with Susan Crawford from the Brampton Business Board of Trade, and Sheldon Leiba from the Mississauga Board of Trade. Folks, one of the things that every politician seems to rally here is all about jobs. The Liberals' platform was that they wanted to create 2.5 billion jobs, and the prosperity funds to be used is to attract business to Ontario. Progressive Conservatives, a PC's campaign theme is to vow to create 1 million jobs over 8 years through tax cuts, lower government, and spending and investments. And finally, the NDP, their element was to implement a job creation tax credit, which would help create 170,000 jobs. Interesting, Springdale now electing a Liberal. Everybody talks about jobs. Is there a formula in one of these campaigns? I'll go to you first, Sheldon, that speaks to jobs, job creation in Mississauga?
It really is a top issue of concern for the business community. There's a lot of factors that goes into job creation. Ontario has persistently had a higher unemployment rate than the rest of the country. In Mississauga in particular, we're seeing high unemployment and underemployment, both with the newcomer population as well as the younger generation coming out of schools. We really need to see some specific strategies around how we're going to create these jobs. I think the only jobs that government really creates are the ones that in the public sector. Businesses create jobs, and so government needs to create the type of environment that's conducive for businesses to create jobs. And so that is, looking at the business costs, taxes, other costs that go into businesses, and energy as an example, helping to support businesses with programs and services that will enable them to be more more productive, to be able to invest in technology to support their business, to be able to hire employees.
And we were talking to Peter Howarth from the Canadian Association of Retired People, and we said that 75 is the old 65. 75 is the new 65. And Peter was saying how many people who are over 65 and 70 who are now re-entering the job market. So that's putting a constraint on them again. Susan, I'll come to you with regards to Brampton. Jobs is a big thing. You have a high new immigrant population. You have a burgeoning population in Brampton. Was one of these platforms, either the Liberals or the Conservatives or the NDP, that speaks to your constituents in Brampton?
Well, I mean, all of the candidates talked about job creation, but job creation only comes when you create an economy that's attractive for people to invest in. And so, tackling the debt and dealing with those other issues, I think, are also really important. And some of the things that Sheldon talked about as well in terms of providing support.
Susan. That's great.
I'm trying to be politically agnostic, I think is what we say at our Board of Trade. So, job creation is critical, and with more people staying in the workforce, it means there's more pressure on our youth. And so there are things like innovation, youth entrepreneurship, all of those types of programs, training, our skilled trades. We have an apprenticeship program that has quotas that really aren't realistic, that are preventing people from getting into the apprenticeship program. So all of these things have to be dealt with. It's one thing to say I'm going to create 1 million jobs, I'm going to create 100,000 jobs, but it's really, what are you going to do to make our province more attractive to business so that business stays?
And to create a job from nothing, or to create a job that is something which is building on a company that's already existing, are both two difficult things. Absolutely. I would think that we would want to attract businesses to bring more jobs here. One of the things that Brampton did in several instances was clear land that was made available to companies to come in. That kind of an incentive really works. Would you say that is less of an option, Sheldon and Mississauga, just because of the so much of Mississauga land is already taken and is already being used?
But when you see the direction that our economy going, it's becoming a lot more knowledge based.
Yes.
So it's not as land intensive.
Yes.
And so we're going to require a much more educated workforce to support the types of businesses that are going to be sustainable, that are going to create jobs of the future. So there's still lots of opportunities, in places like Brampton and Mississauga that's now being built out to continue to attract businesses and jobs to our community.
So when you hear statistics, the Heinz plant closing, Unilever leaving, a whole bunch of large companies that are evacuating because either their parent company has told them that that's going to happen, or they can't create a viable business with the cost of what it is for labor, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that puts, the Brampton Board of Trade and the Mississauga Board of Trade, that puts a siren on in the offices and says, oh, those people are leaving. What do we replace that with? What programs do we do to fill that gap and to be able to address those people who are now unemployed?
Well, we shouldn't need to be losing businesses. I think if we create the type of environment, for businesses to succeed, we're competing with jurisdictions all over the world now to attract and retain businesses.
And that's a premise.
So we need to be cost competitive. But also one of the ingredients, I think, to a successful business in terms of determining where they're going to locate is having access to a very skilled and trained workforce. The province has exclusive jurisdiction over education and training programs, and there really is a huge gap in an ever-changing economic environment where the skills that businesses need today and tomorrow aren't necessarily being developed in the education system and through the training programs that aren't being delivered. So that needs to be a top priority
but Sheldon,
for our provincial government.
I agree with that, and I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong, but we need an immediate fix. We need some sort of a Band-Aid. We need someone to throw a life raft or a life preserver to people who were working and had a job, because so many people now have to change what their occupation is, and they have to be faster on their feet. Since we have no manufacturing, it is absolutely valid to say we want to attract high educated people to work in those jobs, but the middle class is dwindling. Is this not an area that, from representing businesses, and you're representing businesses or mom and pops as well as larger companies, but majority mom and pops who work every day, and when they put their key in the door, it costs them a buck to do that, for sure. How do we get them to grow? Because they're gonna. You just looked at Susan.
No, I didn't. Okay, this one, Susan. Well, I jumped in. I jumped in quickly the last time. So.
No, but it is. You see, the wonderful thing about our economy is that the majority of the jobs. I don't know what the actual percentage is. In all this paper, I probably have it. That there is the largest proportion of job creation is from the single owner, the proprietor, that mom and pop shop. So we need to feed that fire, because that's the place that is going to hire more people. At least get people out of the ditches, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think what we need to do, we're not going to retrain those people.
Right.
We have to make it easier for them to be successful in their business. And I think you do that by reducing the corporate tax rate. You do that by making it easier or controlling costs in terms of transportation costs and the cost of doing business. I mean, that's really the only way to deal with that. And so it's sort of a multi-pronged approach that you have to take. We have to train our next generation of business people.
It validates what Sheldon was saying. I wasn't trying to minimize what you were saying, but I'm saying, like, right now, the water's up to here, and it's time. We've got to do something now.
But there is no magic bullet. It took us a long time to get to where we're at now.
I have a magic bullet.
What? Yeah, what's that?
Smoothies every morning with my magic.
Well, that's not going to solve all our economic problems, unfortunately.
All right, we will continue this discussion. We'll throw it over to Niru.
Michael, thank you very much. While you've been chatting, results have been coming in, and perhaps surprisingly, perhaps not surprisingly, there have been a lot of declared winners for the region of Peel, and it looks like the incumbents are holding on to their seats largely. I'm going to go through these with you, spend a minute or so going through these with you, because I think it's important. As you can see on your screen, we've got Bob Delaney, who's declared the winner by somewhat 9,000 or so votes, with 170 polls out of 191 reporting. So Mississauga Streetsville will see its incumbent MPP return in spite of the challenges that he faced. This is Bramley Gore Malton, 102 polls out of 298, just shy of 300 polls. Jagmeet Singh has won by about 1,500 votes for the area of Bramley Gore Malton. So the Liberals are holding on to their seats so far in the Mississauga area. Brampton West, Vic Dillon has held on to his seats by about 6,000 votes, roughly, with 178 polls reporting out of 329. Brampton Springdale, Harinder Mully, we called that a little while ago. We saw Harinder giving her victory speech with Sarb, our reporter on site. And so we've got Brampton Springdale, also a Liberal stronghold. Dufferin Caledon, not a Liberal stronghold, but a PC stronghold. It's been held by Sylvia Jones for since 2007 and continues to be held by her. She wins by roughly 3,000 votes. Deepika Demerla takes it again for the riding of Mississauga East Cooksville. She's been declared the winner with 146 polls reporting out of 248 by a win of something like 5,000 or 6,000 votes. And then we have Charles Sousa, the Minister of Finance, who delivered the budget that didn't pass, that caused this election. He has been re-elected with by over 4,300 or so votes for the region of Mississauga South. Mississauga Brampton South, Amrit Mungat takes it again. She's the Liberal incumbent, has been since 2007, and she takes that riding again. Mississauga Brampton South going to Amrit Mungat. And Mississauga Arundel, Harinder Tucker, who almost looked like he wasn't even going to run this election, takes it again with 2,300 or so votes. That's Mississauga Arundel with 90 polls reporting out of 255. And we started here, so now you can cycle through and you can follow the results on our screen. Just wanted to give you the update. That looks like our Peel riding has largely stayed in the same hands, but stay with us because this, as I say, they have been declared, but we do have polling numbers to continue to give you, and we'll give you updates, and that will affect percentages, etc. So stay with us, but also we will be with you right until the end when we hear the speeches from all the party leaders. So we will be broadcasting live the speech of Kathleen Wynne, Andrea Horvath, and Tim Hudak, so you'll have to stay with us to get the live coverage of their victory and or concession speeches. We're going to see how that plays out. But if you look at the bottom of our screen, the Liberals are right now at 57 seats. The PCs are at 23 and the NDP are at 22. Green still has not won a seat. We'll find out if they do manage to win a seat. They have a couple of candidates in our Peel riding. So that's some of the updates that I wanted to give you. And next, I am joined by a transportation expert. Joe Hornick is with the Western GTA Summit, and he's spoken widely about transit issues. And Joe, welcome to the studio.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
So I just gave an update of all the results that are rolling in fast and furious. Are you liking or not liking what you're seeing?
Well, I think for transit, one of the big tentpole issues of the campaign for the Liberals has been transit. I think it's interesting that you see all of the people in Peel being returned to their seats, usually with at least the same or if not larger majorities for the Liberals. I also have seen pickups in Burlington and Halton for the Liberals. So I have to think that part of that goes back to transit and looking at things like all-day two-way GO train traffic. And that improves commuters' lives, and that's something they perhaps responded to tonight.
Do you feel that the Liberals, in their platform and perhaps through the budget that you saw that they introduced in the House earlier, is the Liberal platform as it relates to transit something that you think is suitable for this region, or did you find ideas as well from the Progressive Conservative camp or the NDP camp that would resonate equally, if not better, for this region?
Well, I think going into the budget, there were a lot of questions around a number of the major projects in the Peel region. For instance, the Huron-Ontario line had not been greenlit for any funding. In the budget, that was greenlit. Same with the Huron-Ontario or the Dundas BRT, two-way GO train traffic. These are all issues that before the budget had kind of languished. And with the Ontario budget that was produced by Mr. Sousa a couple months ago now, all of that was greenlit. I have to think that the NDP was silent mostly on these issues. The Conservatives supported two-way GO train traffic, but only on the Georgetown line and the Lakeshore line, so not the Milton line, which runs through the majority of Mississauga. So, if you were voting on transit, you usually were favoring Liberals because they had the strongest platform on that topic.
Well, I find it interesting that you should say that because I got it pretty loud and clear from the Progressive Conservative camp that nothing was going to happen until they slayed that evil deficit. And I think that they were going to, and that they had projected out 2 years, and nothing was going to be invested, but rather every effort was going to be made to cut so that we could get back into a state of balance, and then the investments would start pouring in. And we didn't maybe hear enough about the kinds of transit plans that they might have had 2 years down the road.
I mean, you're totally right. I think one of the things on transit, though, is I think there's a lot of voter discomfort or voter anger about kind of these projects being constantly delayed. It's always like next year, the year after that. There's a lot of feelings about, when are we actually going to take action? When are these things actually going to be built? Especially the Huron-Ontario line, we're going through the final stages of the environmental assessment. So, it's ready to be funded now. You've got a city council in Mississauga that is heavily in favor of it. You saw, obviously, Hazel McCallion came out very strongly for the Liberal campaign. She hasn't always taken a position, but in this particular race, she decided to endorse the Liberal campaign. So I think, things like that have made a big difference. I think we have to remember that transit has a big impact on the economy, being able to get people to their jobs. I think it also has huge impacts on social. Being able to get home at night is a big factor. Wanting to stay at your current job, if it takes you more than 45 minutes to get to it, there's a much lower return rate in people wanting to stay at those jobs if they have to commute more than 45 minutes. So, transit has a huge impact in a lot of places.
Well, I am told, or the statistic that I've heard about sitting around in traffic is something like 82 minutes per round trip that people spend in traffic, and that's one of the highest in North America, if not the highest, in terms of how long people are cooling their heels and driving to and fro. Let me just ask you specifically about the Here Ontario line. You know what? I'm going to have to just cut you there. We are going to be going live. I am hearing that Tim Hudak is going to be speaking and addressing Ontarians tonight. So let's see what he has to say. I think he's just walking in, and there he is with Deb Hutton, his wife, who is of course a chief player in the Harris years, a chief advisor, senior advisor to Mike Harris. Tim Hudak and Deb Hutton are just making their way into campaign headquarters. I imagine that with the numbers as they are, this can't be the result that he was hoping for. Now, I don't know what kind of speech he's about to make, but it can't be a victory speech with the numbers that we're seeing. He campaigned long and hard, and what I will say is that he was passionate about his platform and really believed that his way, that the PC platform and that what they had put forth as their ideas were the ways forward for the progressive conservative government and for Ontarians generally. So we're going to hear what he has to say as these numbers indicate a less than perfect result that he would have hoped for.
Friends, it is great to be back home in Niagara. I want to thank you all very much for being here to greet Debbie and I tonight, and let me say right off the top, I want to thank the people of Niagara West Glanbrook for once again giving me the honor. I want to thank the hardworking people of Niagara West Glanbrook for giving me the honor of representing the men again at Queen's Park. I've spent the past 6 weeks, as I've spent the last 5 years, traveling around this amazing province, and most importantly, talking with men and women from every walk of life about the challenges they face and the hopes that they all have for a brighter future. This has been a long campaign, and without question, it has been a hard-fought campaign. We did not receive the results that we had wanted. But let me tell you this. I could not be more proud of the work of our team and the positive message of hope and jobs and change that we offer. A few minutes ago, I spoke with Kathleen Wynne, and I congratulated her on her win tonight. Ms. Wynne and the Liberals have won the election, so they will have the opportunity to deliver the change that Ontario so clearly needs. I also spoke with Andrea Horvath and congratulated her on a strong and respectful campaign that put a real focus on government accountability. Nobody should mistake this result as an endorsement of the status quo. Kathleen Wynne promised very different behavior from what we've seen these past 11 years. She will be held accountable if she does not deliver on that change. Ontario families rightly expect to see a level of transparency and a standard of conduct that is dramatically different from the Liberal record of these past years. They expect a government we can afford and an end to wasteful bureaucracy. And most of all, they expect a government that is going to focus on creating jobs above all else. Friends, I am immensely and will forever be proud of the campaign we ran and the clear vision of hope that we put before the people of the great province of Ontario. Our PC team and every party has the responsibility to work constructively in the legislature on behalf of the people that we all represent. And we have a responsibility to stay true. Stay true to what the voters sent us to Queen's Park to do. Our team will put private sector job creation first in every decision, because turning around Ontario's jobs crisis is the only way to get real security and prosperity for all Ontario families, and the only way we can pay for the services we depend upon. We will work towards a government that lives within its means, because there is no compassion in borrowing from our children to fund out-of-control spending today. I am proud of what our team has accomplished, and I am optimistic about our party's future. But I will not be leading the Ontario PC Party into the next election campaign. I will meet with the caucus and the party executive in the coming days to begin the process of selecting a new leader. I will lead our party and our caucus only until that new leader is selected. But I will do so knowing that the Ontario PC Party remains strong. We have a talented, dedicated, committed caucus. We have rebuilt our party's grassroots organization. We have put important issues on the public agenda, especially job creation and affordable government. It is a tremendous honor to represent the good people of Niagara West Glanbrook, and I will continue to earn your trust as your member of provincial parliament, and will represent you for the cause for which you elected me. I want to thank, across this province, all of our candidates, our caucus, our donors, and particularly all of the hardworking, dedicated campaign workers from Fort Erie to Kenora to Ottawa. You made me damn proud, and I appreciate how hard you work. And I especially want to thank my family, my beautiful wife, Debbie. My beautiful wife, Debbie, my gorgeous and fun daughters, Miller and Maitland, who have stood by me through thick and thin. They have offered tremendous support in a campaign and job that, quite frankly, keeps me too often too far away from home. We ran a campaign of hope because I have boundless hope for Ontario and for our people. Ontario faces real economic and fiscal challenges, and they won't go away just because the election campaign is ended. But the people of Ontario have determination and skill and compassion, and I am absolutely convinced that with the right change from government, that Ontario can lead again. Friends, thank you for all your commitment. Thank you for believing in the brightest of futures, and I want to thank everyone in Ontario. I truly believe that our best days are yet to come. Friends, thank you very much. God bless. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support.
And there you have it, Tim Hudak giving his concession speech with his wife right beside him. Clearly cannot have been an easy thing to do. He says he called both Kathleen Wynne to offer his congratulations on her victory tonight, and to offer congratulations for a good campaign to Andrea Horwath, who fought the fight. He was very gracious in that he said that now Kathleen Wynne, or the governing party, is going to implement the plan that Ontarians so clearly need. So a concession speech tonight by Tim Hudak early into the evening, earlier than we expected, considering that it was being called a very tight race. I'm going to bring Michael back, who's going to offer us some of his perspective and thoughts on what we just saw. Michael, what did you just think of that?
You know, Niru, it's very interesting in the provincial politics. If you look back, Ernie Eves, John Tory, and Tim Hudak, the three of them, lost to the Liberals, and that was to McGuinty. And now we look at Kathleen Wynne winning again against the Conservatives. You can be well assured of the fact that probably in the next 4 months we are going to have a leadership convention, and things will change because it has to change. Unfortunately, Tim Hudak had 2 hits at the can, and it didn't work out for him. He also was mentioning that the endorsement of the Liberals is not an endorsement for status quo. He still believes that they should deliver change and that there should be a level of transparency. So he's still getting his little digs in there with some suggestions that jobs and that the legislature and his Conservative cohort should work together to continue the movement of government. But Niru, I think it's going to be an interesting scenario. That basically says that all the stuff with the gas plants and what the charges that are the OPP are waging are going to be diminished, because there's not going to be as much of a vocal opposition to talk about that. But we are entering into another Liberal government, and we'll have to see where that takes us, hopefully in a positive trend.
Well, it's very interesting because on the one hand, there was a big question about whether the electorate was going to render its judgment on the last 16 months of a Kathleen Wynne Liberal government, or whether it was rendering its judgment on the last 11 years of Liberal administration, starting in 2003 with Dalton McGuinty. And despite all the scandals that we've been hearing about, and despite all of the billions of dollars of wasted money, and all those issues that have that were like albatrosses around Kathleen Wynne's neck, it seems like it didn't really play out that way tonight in the votes.
I think one of the Achilles heel of, if I may be so bold, with regards to the Conservatives' position, was to say that they were going to kill 100,000 jobs. When you have the rally of the unions of both the teachers and the fire and the ambulance, and these strong coalitions that work together, communicate together, have an infrastructure for exchange of information, they said, listen, this is an attack against us, and the Conservatives are going to create problems. And I have to compliment the Liberals on their execution from advertising and commercials, because their message resonated loud and clear, and unfortunately put the Conservatives in a position that maybe their messaging was incorrect, maybe their position was incorrect, but the results speak for themselves. It seems that the people in Ontario back Kathleen Wynne. And,
Michael, I'm just going to interrupt you right now, because I have word that Andrea Horwath is now coming into her headquarters to make a speech of her own. Andrea Horwath is just entering her campaign headquarters. Now, of course, her riding is Hamilton Centre, and I I didn't see the results, but I'm going to assume that she won her seat. I know that Tim Hudak did win his seat, and I know that Kathleen Wynne did win her seat. Kathleen Wynne won the Don Valley West seat riding. Tim Hudak won the riding of Niagara West Glanbrook. And that's where he was making his speech from. And now we have Andrea Horvath coming into her hall in Hamilton Centre. She's looking pretty happy with the results. They had gained in 2011. They were elected with what's the number now? They were elected with 17 seats. That number grew to 21 seats as a result of some by-elections that were held. There were 9 by-elections. She took away many of those seats, 4 of them to be precise, from the Liberals. And so she, at the time that the election was called, was holding 21 seats. And she, of course, wanted to do that or better tonight. And it's looking like she will have at least matched it, if not bettered that count. So whereas the message of the Progressive Conservatives and the 100,000 job cuts may not have resonated, well, let's just hear what Andrea Horvath has to say.
Well, thank you very much for that warm welcome. I much appreciate it. Friends, today thousands of you voted for change that makes sense. You elected New Democrat MPPs who will work hard for you to deliver change and stand up for their communities. Now, I know that many of you here tonight worked so hard and so tirelessly. And I know that you did an amazing amount of work. Thank you. And I know that perhaps people weren't hoping for this particular result tonight, but New Democrats are fighters, and we are going to keep fighting for the things that matter most. For the things that matter most for the families in Ontario. You know, not too long ago, just a few minutes ago, I spoke to Kathleen Wynne and I congratulated her. Our team of New Democrats are going to work with all MPPs to deliver results for people and to make government work and keep it accountable. We have been very clear about our priorities during this campaign, and thousands of Ontarians told us today that they are counting on us to act on those priorities, to make life more affordable, to create jobs and protect services, and that is exactly what we are going to do. New Democrat MPPs will work day in and day out to hold the government accountable and deliver change that makes sense. I also want to take a moment to pay tribute to everyone who ran as a candidate in this election, as a New Democrat or for another party. I'd like to offer my congratulations to those who were elected and my consolation to those who were not. You know, putting your name forward on that ballot takes a lot of personal sacrifice, no matter which party you run for. And the thousands of volunteers who worked in ridings across the province, I want to thank you as well. I know that you live busy lives, you have families to take care of and jobs to do. But literally, our democracy depends on you choosing to spend some of your time knocking on doors, making phone calls, and spreading the word. I want to thank my own family, who are here, for supporting me as well, and for sharing me with the entire province. And of course, I want to thank the voters of Hamilton Centre, who have chosen once again to put their confidence in me. It truly is an honor. It truly is an honor to work for you and to be your voice at Queen's Park. Tomorrow morning, we apply ourselves to the job people have given us. They've given us a mandate to do a particular job, and that is delivering change that makes sense for this province, and I'm proud to be able to do that on behalf of all of you and all of those people that voted NDP in this campaign. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.
Well, that was Andrea Horvath's. I would call it a victory speech because she can't be disappointed, I would think, with the results that she is faced with tonight. I think there was a very, going into this election, there were a lot of questions about how tight a race it was going to be and how much, if at all, the Liberals were going to take away votes from the NDP. Well, it doesn't look like that's happened in as many cases as they might have thought. And it looks like the NDP have held on to a number of their seats. 22 is what I'm seeing on my screen. Michael, what did you think?
Well, interestingly enough, the Liberals have increased their seats by 9. Conservatives have lost 9 seats, and the NDP has gained 1. So it's a pretty clear picture. The Liberals have a majority government, and they will form the next government. You know, Kathleen Wynne did a good job. Unfortunately, with the advent of Mr. Hudak resigning, it's pretty obvious that the Conservatives will go into a leadership convention in short term.
What's interesting, if I just might interject for a moment, is that he has won his riding, but he said he's not only going to resign as leader, but he's going to leave caucus. And so I imagine that that might mean a by-election in his riding at some point.
Yes, interesting, and it's unfortunate. I mean, but this is the second kick at the can that Tim Hudak has had with this. I'm joined now by 2 guests on our panel. Shelley White, who's beside me, is the Peel Region United Way representative, and also Darryl Volk, who is for Fair Share Peel. Both of these folks here here to talk about the results. How do you see these results with the establishment of a Liberal government and a majority government? Shelley, how do you see this for Peel Region and the United Way and those people who need services in our region?
Well, if we think about the budget that the Liberals had put forward before the election, the budget that got defeated, there were many elements in that budget that spoke to the needs of residents living in Peel. And actually, they were going to invest in programs and services such as transit and ensure that they were continuing to invest in our children, our youth unemployment, post-secondary education, economic development, employment, and removing barriers to employment, which is absolutely essential. You know, there is an inextricable link between economic development, infrastructure, and talent management. If we're going to create the kinds of jobs, and good jobs, where employment is actually a pathway to income security, we need to ensure that we're removing the barriers to people getting those good jobs and investing in them to ensure that they're able to take on those good jobs. And they need access to public transportation in order to get to education and employment opportunities.
Well, the Liberals surely spoke to those lanes and talking about helping people in need and stimulating the economy with investment and infrastructure. Darryl, how do you see this from a Fair Share Peel standpoint? Are the Liberals going to be the team that's going to help the Peel region to get their fair share?
Well, I think from a social services and fair share perspective, I agree with Shelley. There were a lot of positives in the budget, such as the $810 million to eliminate wait times for the developmental sector, people with disabilities. There was also funding for community health centers, mental health, and then the transit. Anybody who's been in Peel Region certainly wants the gridlock to be addressed. I also look at this as a former staffer from Queen's Park as well. I had the opportunity to work with Tim Hudak and many of the caucus members defeated tonight. I know the candidates for the PC party, some of them personally. It's tough to see the results from their perspective. I know a lot of these people in a minority government context have put their life on hold for the past 2 years campaigning, and this is certainly not the result that they deserved. But needless to say, a majority government does create stability. We know that Kathleen Wynne is going to reintroduce the budget as her first bill. Obviously, with a majority government, there's going to be no problem with that passing. But I think after that, hopefully we get some money in the Peel for the social services and the infrastructure. But I think the later years of this term are going to be very interesting to watch. I know there's a threat of a downgrade as a result of this budget, which could impact our interest borrowing costs. And
well,
ultimately,
nobody spoke of that. I find it very interesting that you bring that up. I mean, that is something that's going to stand as a consideration. I mean, Brampton is a AAA credit rating; they have no debt. I mean, we look at what our province is going to face. There's a lot of questions, but I think at least we've, as a people, we've empowered a government to lead now. There's a lot less hanky-panky that's going to go on because they have a mandate from the people to lead, and we already got a taste of the budget. So let us hope that the things that they're going to be implemented are going to be done to the way that we hope it is.
Yeah, and I'm confident the very first budget will be good for Peel, and I just think down the road we're paying $11 billion in interest. Obviously it would be higher if we do face a downgrade and higher interest payments. At the end of the day, there was really no serious discussion from the Liberals or the NDP in terms of how they wanted to reduce the deficit. So ultimately, I suspect some of that tough medicine will come after the campaign. We've seen in the past that the Liberals tend to campaign one way and do things a bit different, so we've certainly got to keep a close eye on that, but I mean, the mandate was very clear tonight. This couldn't have been any worse of a night for the PC party, and I'm sure she didn't show it in her speech tonight, but Andrea Horwath must really regret pulling the plug on this budget, given that she's lost her power as well.
I don't necessarily believe that. I think what Andrea did was the right thing because she didn't believe in the budget. I mean, they've gained 1 seat. I mean, a much better condition when you look at the PCs losing 9. I think she's still a kingmaker. There's still a lot that she can do. With a majority government, obviously, her voice will be heard, but it doesn't necessarily have to be considered.
Well, it kind of reminds me of Jack Layton's Orange Crush, where his party went to great lengths, although we didn't see it tonight with the Ontario NDP. But would you rather have close to 100 seats but not hold the balance of power, or would you rather have a minority government even with less seats and be able to extort conditions? So, and I know there was a lot of NDPers that were also upset about the direction that she took the party in this particular election. So we'll
I think
see,
she's
we'll
going
see
to
what
stay
happens.
on. I think she's done a good job. I think her base is going to support her. It'll be interesting to see who the next leader of the Progressive Conservatives in the Ontario region will be. I think that's going to prove to be a very interesting battle. I would assume that in the next 4 months we'll start to hear that, and I would also suggest to you that we're going to have a federal election called very soon. And interestingly enough, you always take the temperature of the provincial to find out how hot the fever is for the federal. So that will be an interesting thing to consider. Are you happy, Shelley? Are you happy with the outcome? You're wearing blue, so I'm fashion police today. So you're wearing blue. Are you happy with this outcome? Is this right?
I'm happy that there is a majority government, and that the government is going to have the opportunity to actually develop a budget and put it through. It's very destabilizing for the province when there's a minority government and whether there's this risk of a lack of confidence. We need stability in the province. So from that perspective, I'm glad that we have a majority government. And these are very challenging times that we have. There's a lot of change that's required. We need strong leadership. So from that perspective, I'm very happy. I'm pleased that there are a number of Liberal representatives, MPPs, who've been elected in our area, and I think that's going to be very helpful for us in terms of advocating for the fair share, as well as advocating for some other investments that we need in this community to ensure that we thrive and that we are achieving our potential and our goals.
One could say, Daryl, that fair share is all about the people in this particular region who pay our taxes. We pay a disproportionately more level of tax than those in other areas, but we are considered as an equal participant in our area. And what fair share represents is saying that the people in Peel should get the same services that they pay for. So we're trying to get our fair share. Do you believe that we'll be able to acquire more of our share through a Liberal provincial government?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to make a lot more gains this term. I think there was some progress made last term on childcare, mental health for children, the disability sector. I think that budget will go through. The other thing is I do have a lot of confidence in Charles Sousa as a Mississauga-based finance minister. Now he won't have to be extorted by the NDP on issues like auto insurance. Certainly, well, I mean, that's the way a minority government works. You please your base. Obviously, they were trying to target certain areas, and auto insurance is a big issue. I don't want to minimize that. But when you have to go and reach out to another party just to simply get support and live another day, perhaps it prevents some of the things that you would have wanted done. So now we have a stable partner that we can negotiate with. 7 out of 9 representatives in Peel Region are part of the government caucus, including the top cabinet minister. And we'll see what this means, but I think there's reason to be optimistic.
Dara Walk from Fair Share Peel and Shelley White from the United Way. Back to you, Niru.
Thank you, Michael. Interestingly, I was just thinking. Yes, thank you very much. I'm up. Just a little timing thing. Thank you, Michael. We are going live to Liberal headquarters with Pam Ball, who is standing by to talk to the victor of that Mississauga Streetsville, Bob Delaney. Pam, what can you tell us from there?
I'm at the Franklin House in Streetsville, and joining me is Bob Delaney. He is the Liberal representative who has just been re-elected for his 4th term as MPP in this riding of Mississauga Streetsville. Bob, congratulations. How does it feel?
So much. You know, this is an awful lot like the feeling when you've won a championship in your favorite sport. It's a sensation that never gets old, and I'm very, very grateful for the honor and the privilege of continuing to represent the folks in Lisgar, Meadowvale, and Streetsville.
Now, when you walked in here a few minutes ago, you asked your supporters, how does 4 in a row feel? How does 4 in a row feel for you?
Oh man, it's every bit as sweet as it was to win the first one. Anytime you realize that you've got that degree of confidence from your community, it's a feeling that's a little overwhelming, and I'm very grateful, I'm very honored, and I'm looking forward to the challenge of the next 4 years of continuing to bring the resources of the province here to the northwest corner of the city.
Speaking of some of those issues, what do you plan on focusing on this time around?
Well, this time, one of the messages I brought to people's doors was the need for a new urgent care centre and a community health hub. And just as Councillor Sato and I have worked on getting the Lisgar GO station, and I've worked with the hospital on securing approval and funding for Phase 2 and Phase 3, and for Erin Oak kids, we need that urgent care centre and community health hub. We need that ability to look after a lot of our seniors in Meadowvale, in Streetsville, because in addition to being a growing community, it's also an aging one. So as I said in my speech, I had talked to the Minister of Health, and I said, I'm campaigning on this, and she said, you win and we form government, we'll get it done. And now I'm going to hold her to her word, and we're going to get it done.
You're definitely passionate about serving your community. What made you, or what inspired you to run again?
You know, this is a job that continues to be a challenge. It continues to be something that brings out the best in me personally. There isn't a day that I get up at 5 in the morning, if I have to be in there at 8 o'clock, that I look in the mirror and think anything other than I can hardly wait to get at it. So as long as I can look in the mirror in the morning and think that this is still the thing that lights me up more than anything else in the world, and going to work for the people of these 3 communities is this the most important, vital thing that I can do, then I'd be pleased to accept the community's mandate to serve them.
Very nice. Okay, thank you so much. Congratulations and best wishes again on your next term as MPP in Mississauga Streetsville. That's it live here from the Franklin House. Niru, back to you.